Welcome to the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. I'm Buck. He's Clay. We are going to tell you all about what's happening today in Cuba. These protests exploding, continuing on now, and the way the Democrats are reacting to it, and some activists are reacting to it as well. Plus, we've got more on the budget deal, trillions of dollars to be spent, and also a Trojan horse on the policy front to get thrown in the mix. Amnesty. Is amnesty a budgetary matter? We will address this in just a little bit. So first, let's start, if we can, with what's happening right now in Cuba, the situation unfolding there. The administration, the Biden administration, is having a moment of, oh gosh, we might have to make a decision. And here is Jen Psaki being asked, representing President Biden in the White House, do you condemn communism? I mean, can we all just start with some first principles or some basic truths here? Communism is bad if you're an American. Do you
think that people are leaving Cuba because they don't like communism?
I think we've been pretty clear that we think people are leaving Cuba, or not leaving Cuba, or protesting in the streets as well, because they are opposed to the oppression, to the mismanagement of the government in the country. And we certainly support their right to protest. We support their efforts to speak out against their treatment in Cuba.
Clay, how about communism is antithetical to American values, has resulted in the immiseration of entire generations around the globe, millions murdered, hundreds of millions impoverished. Yeah, we, the Democrat Party of America, that claims capitalism is something we still believe in, agree that commies don't have the right idea. Is that hard to say?
It is wild that she couldn't, Buck, just come out and say communism is bad. That's all she had to say. We believe that based on a long litany of historical evidence that communism fails, that it dehumanizes people, that it doesn't allow them to embrace basic human rights. It's like our entire struggle against the Soviet Union didn't exist. I can't believe that someone who is paid to speak, that is her entire job, she's paid to speak on her feet, that she can't simply say, yes, communism is bad. And look, this sounds ridiculous, but the reason why she can't say it is because she's probably nervous that she's going to alienate the left-wing base of her party by criticizing what's going on in Cuba, which is, and brings us to, why Black Lives Matter is such a fundamentally anti-American group. They put out a statement that did not condemn the Cuban government at all, Buck. They blamed the United States government for the protests that are going on in Cuba. And I know we talk about this, and I hope our show is going to start to have some impact in this front. I know that everybody is terrified of being called racist, but when Black Lives Matter puts out a statement this insanely dumb, you have to call them out no matter what their race is. You can't blame the United States for what's going on in Cuba and defend the Cuban government in the process. This is what the Colin Kaepernicks and the kneelers and the protesters ultimately are supporting. Black Lives Matter is, and I'm trying to be careful here because we got FCC restrictions, completely full of crap on this and most issues in which they attach their name.
What else would we expect from an organization that convinced large swaths of the country that defunding police was anything other than a completely insane, reckless, dangerous idea? To the statement that BLM put out, we have it here, and this immediately set alight social media. Everybody was definitely paying close attention to this one. I'm not going to read the whole thing because Clay gave a good outline. It's basically, it's all America's fault. Yay, commies, down with America. But here's some of the basics. Black Lives Matter, they write, condemns the U.S. federal government's inhumane treatment of Cubans and urges it to immediately lift the economic embargo. This cruel and inhumane, again, policy instituted with the explicit intention of destabilizing the country and undermining Cubans' right to choose their own government is at the heart of Cuba's current crisis. And then they go to since 1962, et cetera, et cetera. Clay, we can take a few pieces of this. First of all, Cubans don't get to choose their own government right now. So this idea that the problem here is the lack of democracy because of the U.S. diplomatic freeze or long-term embargo of Cuba is just crazy. I mean, it's just ahistorical, counterfactual absurdity. But hey, corporations love BLM, so they get away with it.
They're afraid. There are so many people afraid that the Democratic parties, which their entire basis for existence right now, I mean, Buck, this is it. Their entire governing philosophy, their entire reason to exist is to say everything is racist. That's basically the Democratic Party right now. And even Black Lives Matter, which exists to say everything is racist, the United States is systemically racist, the 1619 Project, which is founded on a basis of lies. People are afraid to point out the truth, many people, Buck, because they are afraid they will be called racist. And so Black Lives Matter trots out this absolute garbage, and the Democratic Party pretends it doesn't exist. Just like, by the way, this is not new for Black Lives Matter. They had their mission statement up on the website, and they said their goal was to dismantle the nuclear family. Your goal is to stop moms and dads from raising children? The most successful framework that has been proven throughout centuries to yield the best results for children all around the world of all races is to have two parents in their home. Now, I'm sure there are some people who are listening, so I want to be clear. If you're divorced or you are a single parent, it doesn't mean that you can't do a good job as a parent, right? It just means that statistically, the best possible formation of young children occurs in nuclear families with two-parent households. And Black Lives Matter said they're trying to basically dismantle Western civilization, Buck, because too much of Western civilization was white guys. It's all madness. I mean, the reason why Western civilization exists is because we all build on the best creations. This gets into all the madness of assimilating and cultural assimilation and everything else. This stuff doesn't exist. It's just all made up. And Black Lives Matter should be, and I actually say positively here at least, they're getting ridiculed absolutely for this statement that they put out supporting the Cuban government.
There's also a component of this that would seem to be people don't want to see what the real power structure is in America, particularly those at the very top of it. I mean, this is, in effect, why someone like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, but Pelosi specifically, a person who is worth somewhere in the $50 million plus range, lives in a mansion in San Francisco, has a staff and has servants and has people doing everything for her all the time, will not release her grip even at the age of, 80, I think?
Nearly 80.
78, 79. Will not release her grip on power. It's so much easier for the Democrat elites to put up a BLM square on their Instagram for major corporations, including those that do business with China or that outsource American jobs to other countries, to pretend to be righteous because they stand with the BLM movement. So in a sense, it's like wokeness insurance. If you promote this stuff, if you say you like BLM and the movement thereof, you are less likely to not only get called out for being racist, which you and I talk about a lot, but also to have people start to ask questions like, what is the Democrat Party really doing for working people in America today when it comes to jobs, when it comes to wages? What does illegal immigration do to people who are making their way up the wage scale? What does it do to have greater competition from people that are going to take less wages and often be paid off the books entirely? The answer is it does not help the very people that the Democrats claim to be all about. The elites get away with playing the game their way while they act like BLM is so important to them. And I'll just say, this is not surprising at all that their BLM is expressing solidarity with what's going on with the Cuban regime, not the Cuban people in the streets. You know, for a movement that's all about protests and struggle and even riots, they're not pro-riot all of a sudden. They're anti-U.S., which in effect means they're on the side of Diaz-Canel and the skull-crushing, boot-heel-on-the-throat totalitarians of the prison state that is the Cuban island under the communists.
And that is the organization that we have been begging for their support. And by we, I mean major corporations all over this country. They've been donating money to. They have been supporting. Every place that you probably ever have bought anything from has sent you out a BLM email. Last year, my wife is making fun of the ridiculousness of all the emails, the corporate emails now that we get that are super woke, that endorse. Like you bought, like my wife was saying, hey, we just bought, a couch. I don't really care what the couch manufacturer thinks about COVID or BLM or
Clay,
any kind of corporate woke politics.
You don't want to sit on an oppressive couch.
I mean, it's crazy, right? People know what I'm talking about. You're getting emails from the least. I'm trying to think, what is the brand out there that is the least corporate imaginable and political, and suddenly you got to hear from everybody.